So the thing I'm going to show you today is a free slouchy beanie from Patterns for Pirates group. It's a super easy pattern. I made a couple of them. It doesn't take long at all. There are two pattern pieces for this. There is one that looks like this. You need two of these on the fold. So I have those here. And you would do this out of a stretchy fabric. Okay, so when you open up, it looks like that. And then there's a, what is this part? Oh geez, I'm having a brain fart. Oh, this is a band that goes around the bottom of the hat. Now it's supposed to be on the fold, but I didn't want to waste fabric, so I'm going to actually sew this on both sides, whereas if you did it on the fold, you would only have one seam. But again, I was trying to conserve fabric. So the main thing that you need to do is fold your hat pieces with the right sides together. And what we're going to do first is sew this top little angled part on both of them, and then we'll open them up and sew along the curved edge, and then we'll put the band on the bottom. So this is really, really simple to do. And I'm going to do this all on my serger. If you were going to do it on a sewing machine, you would definitely want to make sure that you do a stretch stitch for this. So when I'm doing this and sewing towards a fold, or sewing and there is a fold, I'm always going to start at the other part and go towards the fold so it doesn't move the ends. So I'm just going to line it up and just cut a tiny bit off. And when you're serging a bunch of things, you can actually serge them in a row without taking it out to begin with. So I'm going to line up the next one. So I sewed both of the, I guess they would be considered darts or pleats at the top. When you are sewing with knits, I would definitely recommend sewing a sample first, just to make sure that your machine is set up correctly, because sometimes it can look wavy and things. Okay, so now that those are both sewn, I'm going to open them up. And you'll see it pretty much looks like a circle, or it looks more like an M. So I'm going to open both of them up, and I don't pin any of this. So I'm going to open it up, and you're going to put it right sides together. So it looks like this. Okay, and then I'm going to sew around there. So I'm going to start at one end, doesn't matter which end. I'm going to make sure it matches up, and these should be matched up, especially if you cut them out together. And again, I'm just going to sew close to the edge, cutting just a tiny bit off. Every once in a while, I'm just going to make sure that my edges are matched up. Now, when I'm using the serger, I'm going to make this a little more on the rounded side than making it go into a V, just so that I don't have to do any cutting or anything like that. So when I get to the middle part, I'm just going to do it kind of rounded. And then I'm going to make sure this side is matched up. And so I'm just trying to guide it around the curve. Serging on a curve is a little more difficult than serging when it's straight. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. I'm going to cut my little tails off. Okay, so the main hat part is pretty much done. So if this was a piece on a fold, I would just leave it right sides together and sew one side. But again, since I was trying to conserve fabric, I'll just have two seams. I just cut it a little bit bigger, not exactly on the pattern. And then a trick you can do too, since I have to sew this other side, is I can actually bring this over, make sure it's matched up, and just do it continuously. You'll realize that steps like this will save you some time. if you just do them connected. It actually saves you thread as well, because every time you start or stop serging, it has this tail. So if you sew them continuously, it works a little bit better. Okay, so now at this point we have a band, and we got to fold it in half. So what I do to fold it in half is I take my seam allowance and put it in one direction on one side, the opposite direction on the other, and then I put them together so that the wrong sides are touching. Now I'm just going to put a couple pins in here just to hold it so it doesn't move on me. Okay, and then you just go around and make sure your right sides or wrong sides are touching, and then do the same thing. If you have a second seam, do the same thing. So one seam one direction, one seam allowance the other direction, and then you fold them so the right sides are touching. And if you have just one seam, I would just line up the seam of the band with one of the seams that's on here. Since I have two seams, I'm going to match up the seam of the band with the seam of the hat. And so again, I'm just going to pin in one or two places just so that I can make sure that these are lined up with each other when I sew the band on. Sometimes your knit fabrics will roll a little bit. This is a French terry, which is just a type of knit fabric. This is rolling a little bit more than some other ones. So when you're doing this, you're just going to have to make sure they're not rolled. Okay, so I have my two sides match up. My band is smaller than the hat itself, so I'm going to be stretching my band as I go around. So I'm going to start at one of the seams. So I'm just going to make sure my pieces are all matched up with each other at this one side, so that when I start, it's good to go. And then once it's in there, then I can readjust everything. Okay, so on about an inch on each side of this, I have matched up. So when you are sewing a circle on a serger machine, you have to gradually go into it, and then when you come back around, you'll gradually go off. And again, I'm just going to cut a little bit off as I do this. And again, my band is a little smaller than the hat, so I want to make sure that I'm stretching my band and not stretching the hat. And I'm just trying to make sure again that my bandages aren't rolling. And so this, if it's rolling a lot, you can pin it more than if it wasn't. But I just take my time when I'm doing this. This is a quick, easy project. So I'm almost to the other side. You definitely don't want to sew over pins when you're using a serger. It will break the cutter on the serger, and then you'll have to replace it. And it's always best to stop a little bit sooner just so you don't accidentally hit it. So again, I'm stretching the band, not the hat. And then once I'm back and can see the beginning, then I try to stretch it evenly to fit. And then when you get back to the beginning, which I'm almost there, when you get back to the beginning, you want to overlap your beginning a little bit and then gradually move off. So I'm back to my beginning, and then I just pull it to the left, and then I take it out and cut it. And when you look close enough, you'll see from here to here is overlapped a little bit, and that's what you have to do. And now the hat is done. So you have a beanie. Let me stick it on my head. So So when you're done, it's just kind of slouchy. You can wear it with your hair down, hair up. And I'm sure a lot of people could use some hats right now, considering salons haven't been open. So that is the slouchy beanie. So I hope you learned something. If you try it out, make sure you show me a picture.